All right, 2:41, we're back from break, and we are still on 9.3 financial services regarding 2026 draft operating budget, and I think we're still on questions from council and or motions if you want to put any forward, and we'll keep doing that. I will remind council that I think our time limit is 4 o'clock, 4:30, with an option to extend till 5 if we want. So I guess I would say it's 2:41 now. I think probably we can complete this agenda within that time, but I just always, as always, encourage council to be effective and efficient with their questions and comments. And I'll turn it back to you if you have questions and comments for the manager of finance.
Just as a reminder, we're on the corporate and protective services capital plan. So I'm not sure if there's any other questions in regards to capital plan items in the 2026 draft capital budget. Seeing none, we will move into recreation operating budget. So again, we're focusing on one-time costs on this slide. I'll just provide the cost centers that are included in our recreation, or in our public services recreation operating budget, which includes general recreation, Thamesford Village Affairs, Embro Village Affairs, Crossing Guard, Embro Town Hall, Thamesford Library, Parks, Trees, Harrington Hall, Soccer Fields, Trails, Thamesford Pools, Camps and Programs, TDRC, Embro Community Center, Health and Safety, Health Services, and Cemeteries. And I will pass it over to Manager Caldwell if there's any questions.
Questions from council? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, page 30, Thamesford District Rec Center. What is a low emissivity ceiling, even if I'm pronouncing it right?
Yeah, it's very commonly referred to as a low E ceiling, I think, because of the common struggle with that word.
Okay.
It's a suspended reflective aluminum barrier that's designed to reduce the radiant heat transfer from the heat of the roof to the cold ice surface below. So it's an energy-saving system that reduces refrigeration costs and helps us to maintain more harder, consistent, and safe ice conditions. And then indirectly, it provides the benefit of enhancing lighting within the rink because of the reflective surface. The low E ceiling in Thamesford, if you've been there and seen it, it's very ripped and torn currently. So aside from being quite visually unappealing, it doesn't provide the energy efficiencies that it's intended to. We've listed this as a grant contingent capital item. We feel that with the federal budget coming out and hopefully an extension of the CSRIF grant stream, that we have an opportunity to have this funded through a grant opportunity.
So win-win-win-win on that one.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Start with the grant application.
Same page, we've been talking about storage facility for the recreation equipment ever since we sold the old Thamesford Fire Hall. And there's 200,000 in there. How close to actually shovel in the ground are we on that project?
Yep, so we are happy to say we would be shovel ready to begin this project next spring or when the conditions are fit. We brought a council report late fall last year to seek approval on the new location, being north of the arena, adjacent to the skate park. We have completed our design and costing, and so we also feel that the new location won't interfere with any of the future arena plans that we've referenced in today's meeting or the park space for community use.
And my last question on this page is similar to my first one. What's a de-superheater?
That's another fun one. So a de-superheater is a heat exchanger that recovers waste heat from the refrigeration system. And instead of allowing the excess heat to be released through the condenser, the de-superheater redirects it to preheat water for our ice resurfacer. So the process enhances energy efficiency by reducing wasted heat and lowering the overall energy demand of the refrigeration system. And then by offsetting some of that heat load, it indirectly will improve our hot water temperatures in the change room showers and decrease the demand on the facility's boiler system.
So reducing operating cost and improving level of service at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. We will move through to Public Services, Public Works operating budget. And this operating budget includes the cost centers of general transportation, streetlights, sidewalks, equipment fleet, roadside maintenance, hardtop maintenance, loose top maintenance, winter control, safety device management, and Robinson Pit. And I will defer any questions through to Director Oliver.
Questions from council? Councilor Mitchell?
Steve, page 32 on machinery and equipment. What's a road widener? Is it a magic thing or is it?
No, it's actually, I referenced it in the, my third quarter report. It's road widener is the brand name, actually. It's it's a shouldering machine, so it's what applies gravel to the shoulder of the road. So you dump into it with a truck, it's pushed along with a backhoe or a piece of equipment, and it conveys the gravel to the shoulder.
So in your previous report, you rented it and shared it with the two other, and I noticed that under funding, there's 2/3 of the price. So is this a shared purchase and you're gonna?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna split it 3 ways and then no money back and forth, you're just gonna split it up?
That's correct. So
You get it for 100 days, they get it for.
Zorra Township will buy the piece of equipment.
Yeah.
We will invoice the two other municipalities. It'll be our asset, but we
Yeah.
invoice them for any maintenance or anything like that on it. Will be invoiced to the two municipalities equally.
Okay, so that cuts out the rental price and
That's-
everything. You've got your own piece. If you want to modify it, you're good to go on that.
That's correct. And having that a piece of equipment readily available as such, I mean, in our 2025 asphalt contracts, we had budgeted for $56,000 in shouldering in those contracts. With this piece of equipment, we'll do it in-house.
Yeah,
So we can eliminate that cost. So it'll pay for itself within the first year for Zorra.
so you use it on existing roads, new roads?
Exactly.
Or partners?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Sounds like a good investment.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If there's not any
Yep.
other questions? My goodness, so sorry. Moving to the 2026 to 2035 10-year capital plan. The capital plan is a living document. Each year, the prior 10-year capital plan is scrutinized by staff and cross-referenced with asset management and our development charges background study to best inform the current year capital plan. Additional notable tools, information, and methodologies that are used in assisting with capital plan recommendations are our road needs study, our bridge and culvert, municipal structure inspection report, our recreation master plan, our development charges background study, and our strategic plan. So if we look to the total 10-year capital plan that's included in the 2026 draft budget, the capital plan includes just over $53 million of capital assets, and these capital assets are funded through reserves, federal and provincial grants, DCs, other grants, contributions from other municipalities, and donations and fundraising. Details of the 10-year capital plan was included with your agenda package. If there's no questions on the 10-year capital plan, we'll move through to reserve continuity. So the reserve continuity schedule indicates that reserves are growing over the 10-year period by approximately $13 million. This is based on 10-year capital projects, contributions, and assumptions included in the asset management plan, as well as the development charges background study and the continuation of federal, provincial grants, donations, and other grants and contributions, as well as other municipal partnerships and their contributions to projects as well. If there's any questions on reserves, happy to answer those. And then we can open the floor to any additional questions in regards to the 2026 draft capital budget package.
Questions from council? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I'd like to go back to the community and cemetery grants, which is way back in your report as an attachment to the actual budget. And first of all, I want to thank you for including the applications that were deemed incomplete or ineligible. I think that's information, good information for us to know. My first question is, the Christchurch Hall and Cemetery was deemed ineligible because they applied late. Could they apply for the fund that Multisport Canada contributes to because of the Lakeside Triathlon, which is intended for providing grants for projects within Lakeside and area?
Yeah, so my apologies. I don't really have a fully fleshed out answer for this. I'm unfamiliar with this funding stream, but would be happy to connect and learn more about it so we can pass the information on to the groups.
Karen, you're the one that deals with Multisport Canada, and I think the last few years they've given us $1,000 each year for, I don't. Hmm? Can you go on to another question and I'll come back? Okay. Okay. You want to do on-the-spot research? Yeah. Okay. And my other one was just an information, was the Embro Dog Park application from a group of residents or an established community group.
So they are a group of residents that have come together to bring this delegation forward. So they'll be coming before council mid-November to present the project, and they'd be seeking council support to formalize as a committee of council.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because these types of community inspired projects, if it's like the Lions or the Caledonians or something, we just work with that group.
Yeah.
If it's a group of residents, then we set up a ad hoc committee. But this is for less than 50,000, so we're kind of in that gray area that we're setting up a committee for. But so I will leave it up to staff to, as part of this application, decide how this is handled.
Yeah, and in addition to their delegations, staff will be bringing a report to council with some background information and some recommendations for your consideration.
Okay, that's so more information to come. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry. So yes, historically, they have provided the township with $1,000, and there was a request that came through in 2022 that went towards the memorial stone in Lakeside, and that process has kind of always just continued, that we wait until there was something from the community that they were recommending to be used in the Lakeside area.
So unlike the community group, there's no real deadlines because it's a very limited area, so
Right.
I will encourage them to get in touch with you,
Yeah,
Karen.
definitely.
It seems there's not a lot of projects in Lakeside so if they qualify, then it would be worth.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Some more just wondering questions. When I go through and I see things that kind of jump out at me, It's numbers-wise. Page 40, line 4116. Why does the actual general government vacation pay far exceed budgeted amounts for both 25 and 26?
Sorry, I'm just trying to locate. Do you have
Yeah.
a question number for that one? Do you remember what that was?
That was question 17 on my
Thank you.
short list.
Thank you very much. So some wages are being posted to that general government vacation pay account in error. Staff are currently investigating. We noted at the beginning of last week that there were some pay allocation issues within our payroll, the payroll module of our financial software. So staff are currently investigating the balance, and basically as part of our variance analysis for third quarter that will be coming forward to council in December, we will be reallocating those to the proper cost center lines, reflective of staff who are actually performing that work.
So it's just an accounting adjustment that needs to be made.
Yes, and thank you very much for bringing that to our attention.
Similar question on page 41, which would be lines 4201 and below. There's an unbudgeted debenture expense of $57,558 for Hydroland. What is that for?
So just to provide some context, these questions are in relation to 2025 actuals that were included in the budget report that was being presented to council. So with that account, we've discovered that there was a county invoice for fire debenture repayments that were coded to the wrong GL account. So again, it's just essentially a misallocation of that payment, and those will be reallocated in that third quarter variance from the current account, which is Hydroland debenture expense, which there are no expenses that should be posted to those accounts, back into those fire debenture principal and interest payments.
So most of these questions are just things that jumped out at me, and I'm thinking that anybody that's reading through the budget may have the same questions, and I have the opportunity to ask them, and rather than having, maybe 3 people phone you to ask you, I'll ask you. Page 44, line 4350. Why are we budgeting $60,000 for civic banquets? Was the Governor General coming, or?
So again, we so appreciate you bringing this to our attention. So this account actually should be the general fire consulting and consulting fee account. So it's the naming criteria of the account that was included in our budget software pulled the wrong name. So instead of civic banquets, which it would be great to spend $60,000 on a civic banquet, but it's actually $60,000 for the fire master plan, which in the 2026 budget is funded $45,000 from development charges and $15,000 through the tax levy. I did discover when you made the inquiry into the naming convention of that account that there's also the same instance of civic banquets that is occurring in our stormwater costing center as well. So we will update that for the next iteration of the budget. And thank you for bringing it to our attention.
That was a computer problem. Okay.
Imagine a stormwater civic bank.
Right?
I've never been so tempted to ask AI for an image of that.
It has a lot of potential, doesn't it? Page 45, line 3993. What was the fire capital grant of $69,000 used for? I remember vaguely, but if you could clarify that.
Yep, absolutely. So this again was a 2025 project, and those funds are combined funds from the Emergency Preparedness Grant, which we received $46,950 for the emergency trailer, and the Fire Protection Grant / Safe Wash Program, where we received just over $22,000 for gear washing machines at 2 stations, I believe.
Page 48, what is the 25% reduction in expected building permit revenue in 2026 based on?
That's just us having a look at the way the economy is right now and what's
Yeah.
being done in the township for building permits, and that's basically, we're taking an erring on the side of caution.
So we've seen a decline in the last 2 years. There's nothing to suggest that's going to turn around next year, so you just, and I would point out that the building department is budgeting a deficit this year for the first time that I can remember, that there will be money coming out of reserves. Generally, Mike is good at putting money back into reserves, but based on the economy, which is beyond everybody's control, that's sound budgeting.
What goes up sometimes comes down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And as usual, anybody else wants to jump in? I'll just run through these. Yep. Page 49, when does Zorra receive payment from the partner municipalities for the bylaw officers' expenses? Because I noticed we haven't received anything yet this year.
Correct. So for 2024 and 2025, other municipality partners are invoiced annually. Moving into 2026, billing will be completed quarterly so that we do collect those funds in a more timely manner.
Okay, that's good. Page 40, page 60, why are the actual wages and benefits from the Thamesford Park significantly higher than the 2025 and 2026 budgeted amounts?
So again, this is in line with my previous statement where the week of October 27th, we began to investigate staffing allocations, specifically amongst recreation departments, and have discovered some anomalies. So we're actually looking into making those corrections to allocations, as well as making sure in our payroll system that we're actually having those allocations adjusted so that they're going where they should go in the first place. Thank you.
The answer to the next question was good news. Page 70, line 43, why has the 2026 budget for water at the Ambro Community Center decreased by 77%?
Did you make it? Yeah, I can speak to it. And then maybe you can round it out. I was in 2023, we had some leaking, and so upon investigating that, we've seen some credits to our account, and so we're really just adjusting to the true actuals now and course correcting.
So the leakage kind of threw
Yes.
budgeting for a couple years out of whack, and now we're
Yes.
back on?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good when it gets back on whack, this direction, not the other direction. 2 more to go. Page 71, line 3969, is the urban stormwater management fees revenue now shown on page 72 under stormwater? We're back to other revenue, because I noticed there was no revenue
Yes, you are
there,
absolutely.
but I found it later, so.
You are absolutely correct. So in 2026, we created a new costing center for stormwater, given that net revenues are transferred to reserve, and reporting stormwater activities separately makes it considerably easier for us to actually track those net revenues and ensure that all stormwater-related costs are reflected in stormwater accounts.
And my last question's for Steve. Page 95, I skipped through all the trucks and machinery, much as I like trucks and machinery, but page 95, line 4350, what will the increase of $75,000 in contracted services for loose top road maintenance be used for?
So as council is aware, every 3 years we rotate through the sections of Zorra Township. We did north, central, and south sections. North and central are almost identical in size as far as gravel application. where the south end from like last year is the smallest. So compared from last year to this year, like to 25 to 26, it was going to require about 10,000 more tons of gravel to cover the north end gravel roads. And as council is aware, all our fresh gravel roads get double application of dust suppressant. So when you put more fresh gravel on, you got more dust suppressant costs as well. So that makes up the 75,000. So it's a little less on 27, then it goes back to less and less for the third year, and then it goes back to high again. So it goes through a cycle.
Well, if you're going to spend more money, I'm glad you're spending it in the north end. Thank you. That's my questions. Once again, thanks to staff for answering them. Thanks to the rest of council for humoring me on my once-a-year budget exam, and that's it.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor?
I don't have any questions, but I have a couple of motions that I'm just looking to have seconded. No, you're fine. Can I read? Oh, perfect. Thank you. So I also had a couple of questions around some of the granting streams, but Paul asked sort of some questions that overlapped. So I have a motion for us to consider, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that council direct staff to review policy 500-06, Community Partnership Program Operating Grant, and provide recommendations in a report to address the following. Number 1, consideration of a maximum budget value for the program and/or maximum individual grant application request value. 2, potential for duplication of granting/cost reduction impact when considering applications from sport organizations. And 3, any additional recommendations based on experienced challenges in administering the policy on an operational level.
As the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
So I had some questions that came up when I was looking at the grant values in the budget, and then thinking back to how we originally managed these requests when I first started on council, and trying to move it through policy to a staffing level so that staff could be assessing the merits based on policy framework as opposed to us trying to sort it through as politicians. We did see some revisions and a new stream created through that review last year as a result of the work of our new manager at the time. And I think that's helped provide some clarity. When we provide these funds, I want to be able to have the same predictable budgeting tools that we have through the rest of our funding through our budget. So while these amounts are not huge, I think that we can adopt the principles of how we budget for other things and apply them here to ensure transparency and accountability. I also think that our community groups should have clarity on what they qualify for and what they can expect from us as a funding partner. And when I look at this, I think, you know, how many groups can I think of that if they were sort of encouraged and yes, we advertised, but if they filled out the framework, would staff have the tools to be able to put something in front of us that wasn't potentially $100,000 versus $15,000? And as I've watched council meetings at the county, I know that they have a sort of a budget pool that they don't have to use the whole thing, but it's sort of, it has a maximum. And other municipalities use other methods of sort of determining what the amounts are. The intention in the policy as written is to give staff the ability to sort of assess if the requested amount is warranted based on the policy framework and the operations of that organization. But as I was asking further questions, I think there are some areas that might be able to have more structure so that, while I would still like this to be a staffing consideration, I want to make sure that they have the clarity to be able to achieve what the intention is of these grants. The piece about considering maximum budget value I just spoke to, so, you know, I'm not going to say Oxford County does it better than us, but I would like, you know, staff who are administering this policy and managing the budget, some input, you know, do you think that that could work better? The piece about potential for duplication of granting and cost reduction impacts. We know, for example, our ice rental rates do not recoup the cost of operating an arena if you break it down onto an hourly basis. So tax base heavily subsidizes ice rentals. And then on top of that, we have a framework where minor sports organizations get a further subsidy at a lower rate. We spend time on money consulting to make sure that those rates are appropriate in a broader community context and in terms of what that subsidy level should be from the tax base. And then we have a sports organization who has applied for and meets the current criteria and is receiving significant funds. So when I think about some of our other granting streams, we have either or built into policies so that you either get a fee waiver rental or you get a reduction, so that there isn't a duplication and a stacking of subsidy. And I think what we've unintentionally done and are starting to identify now is create through our policy the ability for that sort of layering of subsidy that, that maybe we should be having a look at. I am nowhere near endorsing where I think that this should go. But I'm confident that on the operational side, staff will have some feedback for us that will help them do their job more efficiently, reduce the administrative burden on this, and be more clear for residents. And that was sort of that last piece, was any additional recommendations based on experience. I am not putting this forward to have impact on this budget, and I am not requesting this report to come back before we pass budget. These grant applications were submitted within a framework that our staff have comfortably put them forward to us that they meet the requirements. So I'm not making any recommendations to adjust the budget, but I do have concerns that how we are receiving and assessing these applications has the potential to become more problematic. And we've revised so much of how we budget, and having sort of those predictable increases and not, you know, we work so hard to not have huge spikes, and so we can apply some of that methodology here and be responsible with money when it's coming from when we're giving money out through grants. It is money that we've collected through our tax base from our entire community. So while it feels good to grant these groups, I want to make sure that we're being mindful of how we're allocating those funds.
Yeah, I support the motion, and how the cemetery and community grant certainly changed a lot since the first time that you and I were on council and addressed it. It's changing it from a political decision to a staff decision, but all policies are living documents. It's time that we look at this living document, and I think the points that you made in your motion are quite valid, and it's time to look at this again, get some more information, and if we need to tweak the policy, that's what we should do. So I fully support your motion.
Anyone else? I hesitate to do this, but I feel like I have to say it, and then I'm going to make a recommendation to council, and you can decide what to do with it. I think that probably procedurally this is out of order, because we're on the line item for the budget, and this technically doesn't actually do anything to the budget. I understand that it's coming from a place of, we reviewed the budget and this is relevant. So what I'm going to suggest to council is, like, and I think you're all, it looks like you're all ready to vote for this. So if you're all okay with it, I'll wear it. I'm the one with the chain on. I'll wear it, and we vote on it, and we do it, and then we go back to budget. I think if we're all okay with it, we're okay with it. But I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job as your head of council. You gave me a procedure bylaw to run these meetings, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't point that out to you. That being said, council can deviate from its procedure bylaw. The head of council can make a ruling, and if somebody challenges the ruling of the head of council, we go ahead with it, and that's all fine. We can make that happen. A little sidebar with the clerk, she's fine with it too. So I just want to point it out so that we know, and if we deviate from it, that we know that we're deviating from it, and if anybody objects to deviating from it, you can say you object to doing that. But I think technically out of order, but if we're all okay with it, we can be okay with it. We're going to get a report back, so nothing is going to structurally change in terms of budget or service level or anything as a result of this. We're going to get a report back for a later date. Councillor Mitchell.
I've always thought if it's okay with Karen, it's okay with me.
I mean, come on.
I've heard you say the same thing.
All right, so I'm taking it from that you're all okay with what I said there? Okay, anybody else want to speak to it?
So we're not on to the next one yet, but the next one's in the same category. So if that changes how you feel, speak now. The only thing that I think could tie it back to relevant to not being out of order is, well, I'm not in theory, this gives space that staff could submit report back, that it could provide information that would address changes to this budget, that could inform us changing this budget in those areas if there's, I'm not needing a timeline. I'm saying this doesn't have to be for this budget because I don't think that that's fair to staff to have a 2-week time turnaround. But some of my questions around, some of the grant applications, we purposefully move that out of, that has become operational. But when I'm reading the policy and I'm trying to understand, the operating stream is operating ice rental, it's raising questions that if staff in this moment feel like there's recommendations that they would like to make back to us in advance of next meeting, that there could be budget implications, that's a stretch. But
I mean, I said it's fine. Let's just do it anyway.
twice?
Don't ever egg the pudding.
Twice.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. What's your next one?
So motion 2 is the second cousin to motion 1. And the intention is that, reading this, if the meeting goes past 3 hours, I get too casual, I'm sorry. Moving through the annual budget changes that just provide so much more structure and stability and clarity and transparency. I am loving the changes that are happening to budget, and the challenge then is, it then makes it glaringly jarring for me, the areas that we don't have, maybe the predictability, the tools, and the transparency, and that's where this highlighted another piece for me. So the motion is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that Council direct staff to prepare a report that includes the 5-year historical amounts of grants provided to Beachville District Museum, Ingersoll Cemetery, and Rural Oxford Economic Development Corporation, and include a high-level review of existing agreements, and submission process to identify if increases to budget are measured and what context is provided, with the intention to move towards aligning to our budget practices of identifying increase to service level changes, one-time expenditures, and impact from inflation for increased transparency.
As the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, so This is, I mean, and I have direct involvement with 2 out of those 3, and I see those budgets, and those budgets are available to us. But when I went through the high-level entry summary of this budget, the first 15 pages, whatever it is, and the bold, this increase relates to this increase relates to that, and then sectioning out, you know, for us to do the same thing we're doing, this is how much more it's costing. And we're going to increase our service levels by doing a little bit more here and there, and this is what it's going to cost. It's going to be a bit more staff or some equipment. These are some one-time expenses that have been identified, and we won't see them carry forward next year. That information makes it very easy for me to be comfortable in my support of the budget, but also it gives me the tools to communicate out to the public what reflects the changes that they're seeing on their tax bill. And so our current practice is we see these amounts that get submitted through their various agreements. Staff put them in our budget for us, and then we have the authority to approve them. But the budgets are developed by external groups, and they're not put through the same scrutiny that our own departmental staff's budgets and requests are put through. And so when Steve is providing information to us about why this piece of equipment and where a rental is actually, you know, will pay for itself with these added benefits by going to this shared purchase, we don't have the ability to do that here. So where we're seeing in certain departments, you know, maybe a 1% increase, we aren't having conversations around the 15 and 20% increases we're seeing annually from some of the grants that we're allocating to other groups. I think if I were to ask around the table now, we don't know if the increases have been greater through ROEDC or through the museum or through the cemetery. And I do think that that is a problem because we approve this budget and then we need to have the tools to defend it to the public. I also think that, you know, to be properly informed, knowing where there's an increase to a service level is important for us to engage with. And through this new asset management framework, when we're adding to our inventory, we're financially planning for what those added costs are long term. So while ROEDC and the museum are not, you know, necessarily purchasing equipment that then we have to inventory, that framework for how we ongoing provide funding and support for these services that are supporting businesses and residents, I believe we need to have a transition towards having some of that information come to us through our budget process in our budget language so we can match the accountability and be as confident in allocating those resources as we are to every other piece that we fund here in Zorra. So again, my intention with this is not for it to impact the amounts that were submitted and put before us today, but not knowing that 5 years ago the museum fund was half of what it is that we're funding today, and I can't tell you if there's an increase of service or if that's because of some significant investment. It's difficult for me to tell you, and I sit on that board. So there are broader governance reviews happening through the museum, and that's going to help with some of this. In the meantime, I think it's important for us to sort of have some of that. I wanted that 5-year historical framework so that we know what it is we're dealing with, and then it may take several years, but transition towards having the information at our budget time so that we're in control. I mean, when it's a $3 million school and we feel out of control of that decision, it really hurts. But you know, we have a $10,000 increase that I know is not reflecting an additional $7,000 or $8,000 that's going to come forward from the museum. There's a potential 30+% increase that's coming before us. We should apply the same scrutiny towards that in terms of return on investment for our value and transparency to residents. And if that feels too far of a stretch, I know you bent on it last. Okay.
Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, I sit on 2 of these 3 committees, and I think that the request is certainly warranted, so I support this. The cemetery, I think, will be the easiest one because that will actually be in a transition moving forward anyways come next year, so that won't be something that we'll continue to fund through granting the way we are now, but I think the visibility into the budgeting between us and the town will be totally different. But yeah, on the Beachville District Museum side of things, I totally agree. I think we're already giving them some support in developing better tools for budgeting. So I think this is more of a formal request to continue with the same.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Yeah, or vaguely related topics. Deputy Mayor?
I have a question for staff. In our delegation in relation from our UTRCA, there was a question about, there was a project in there for a handrail. And then part of that presentation was that staff were going to continue to work with them to determine if it actually is requiring replacement or not. As it stands, as this budget stands now, is the funding for their proposed project that has not been confirmed, or we don't have that confirmation from our staff yet, is that in this budget as presented?
Yes. To further complicate it, sorry as I get on my soapbox, the budget that's presented to us by the Conservation Authority provides our portion of the levy and a matching portion to be funded through a wiki grant. The conversations that we've had with the Conservation Authority is many times their applications for wiki grants are denied. So essentially what we've included in this year's budget is the municipal levy portion of projects, including that handrail project where we've included $17,500. My issue with budgeting that way and having the budget presented to us from the Conservation Authority that way is by approving their budget, essentially what we're saying is we're approving the projects. And they stipulate that the WECI portion is if eligible and approved. So flashing forward, we approve these budgets. We then flash forward, the Conservation Authority submits their wiki grants. They're submitting wiki grants for all of their municipal partners. Some of them are successful. Some of them are not successful. My understanding is some of the applications that go forward to wiki, they don't anticipate receiving wiki funding for. So essentially, we're approving projects from the Conservation Authority based on our levy, but we're committing to also paying that wiki portion if it's not received. So it's a complicated answer to your question, but essentially we've included $17,500 for the rail project. The thought process from a staff and a financing and funding perspective is that if we don't receive the wiki grants on those applications, then we would essentially come forward to council and request that the wiki portion that's been included in the Conservation Authority budget gets funded from our dam reserve that has been established. So it's a bit backwards from kind of a transparent budgeting perspective, in my professional opinion.
I have a follow-up question, because my understanding is that while it seems and feels like we're approving it, it's in fact a levy that they apply to us, correct? And we actually have no legal reason to not budget and pay for it, what they submit.
Correct. It's a levy submission that they're providing to us, but the levy portion that they're requesting that we fund is effectively on the ones that are never going to be eligible for wiki, but that are included in the budget as a portion from wiki. Essentially, it's lowering our levy obligation, because by them levying us for this project, we're obligated to pay both the initial levy, budgeted portion, as well as the other portion of the project if they don't get the WECI grant.
Follow-up question though, but so say they say there's a $20,000 project, but they say they're going to get 10,000 WECI, so they ask us for 10,000, we budget 10,000. Later on in the year, they say we didn't get the WECI, we need another 10,000 from you. They can't levy us in the middle of the year, can they? They apply their levy one time a year where they say this is the levy for these things, and here it is. They can't come monthly with a new levy. Say, well, it's not 10,000, now it's 11,000. Oh no, now it's 12. Oh, now it's 13. Like, isn't it like, here's your levy, 10,000. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is, if they under levy, that's a them problem, not an us problem. I don't know who wants to take a shot.
Haven't been on the board for 7 years yet. Budgeting at conservation is weird. It is. It's about to get weird. Yeah, we'll go into that in a minute. But it's so much based on grant, and WECI, I think there's like $10 million for the entire province, and it hasn't increased in 25 or 30 years. So you just put it out there, and knowing that 90% of what you apply for is not going to get granted. And in the bigger ones, if they don't get WECI, the project gets deferred and deferred and deferred. I don't know what the agreements are on like these $10,000 and $20,000 ones, whether we are committed. I haven't looked into that closely, whether, as you say, they levy us so much and then don't get WECI. They're not going to get WECI on this. There's not, you divide $10 million across the whole province for conservation area, it doesn't work. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, other than, as we're talking a minute, the whole thing has been blowing up.
The whole point of them having that in their presentation today and it being included in the budget is because they've identified a non-compliant to OBC condition, which is debatable, and that's what I understood you guys were going to be taking away as a debatable discussion. If they're right, we need to fix it. If they're wrong, then there's no action here. So I think there is a budgeting discussion here, but we don't even know if we need to do it or not yet, unless definitively you know, Mike, that we don't have to do it.
I would suggest that if I was going into someone's house or on any property at all and something already existed, I can't make them fix that. I don't have to bring that up to today's standards. If I'm going to fix it or apply for a permit to fix something, yes, it comes up to today's standards.
Is that our choice to?
So I just want to, having previously served on the board, it would be, it's Upper Thames owns the property, it's their responsibility to fix it, and their determination.
Yes. Yeah.
They consult with us on good faith, and but frankly, they could not consult, or they could consult and ignore. They're the property owner. They hold the legal liability. The liability that we have under the Conservation Act is to fund whatever levy they apply to us for whatever they apply it for.
Of course, before we fund it, we'll want to be satisfied that we agree that it's non-compliant in the way that they claim.
I think technically no. They apply the levy, we pay the levy. That's it.
Sure, but the only reason they're asking to fix it is because they claim that it's non-compliant.
My understanding, not relevant, and I say that based on at Oxford County, that's where we pay the overall operating levy for Upper Thames, and it for all intents and purposes, it could be a completely opaque budget ask. Here's the levy, that's it, we pay. We have no legal recourse to say, but not this part, or I think that's too much, or I don't think that's needed, or anything like that. That's the way the Conservation Authorities Act is set up, is my understanding. But Karen?
So after Mike inspected it, we did go back to the CA and said that we didn't feel that it was required after Mike's inspection. And they came back and said, if the municipality feels that the railing is not necessary at this time, we are open to deferring or canceling the project.
And that kind of ends the conversation for me. That's easy. Before hearing that, though, if we, just budget question, if we put it in the budget with knowing that they have an appetite for our staff looking at again and considering deferring it or removing it, do we then lose, like, if we budget for it and pass the budget within there, then do we then, if they want to do it, if that conversation with, let's continue looking at this with our staff, do we have any then authority to say, based on this information, we now are going to remove this from budget once the budget bylaw has been passed? Like, if the things in our budget that say are contingent on grant funding, so there's a ton of stuff in here, and I know that if the grants don't come through, then those projects are not going to happen in this year. And if there's a portion of it that's being funded through reserves and a part of it from grant, then we're not drawing down those reserves to complete those projects because that grant funding didn't come through. If we still have a potential decision-making point informed by our staff, endorsed by UTRCA on this project, but we pass a budget that allocates resources to it, does that remove any potential tools we have to continue reviewing to see if this is something that needs to happen? I mean, like what you just read kind of, it doesn't actually matter.
I'm gonna attempt to summarize this. I'm gonna, what does the Municipal Act say? Offer leadership to council here. I think bottom line is, it's up to them. They consult with us and they ask and they do this, but they could send another email right now and say, forget that, we're doing it anyway. And there's technically nothing we can do. It would be a bad relationship. It wouldn't be good practice. But I mean, they're the property owner. Under the Conservation Act, they apply a levy to contributing members, benefiting members. In the general case of benefiting, it's Oxford County with respect to Embro and Harrington dams because they offer no flood protection. The benefiting municipalities are the ones that benefit recreationally, which is the Township of Zorra, not Oxford County. The other thing I would say though is based on the presentation we got today, we're going to be on the hook, depending on how those EAs turn out, for tens of thousands of dollars more. So even if they don't get the WECI and they decide not to proceed with this, and we've budgeted our whatever portion it is, it's not like we've taxed people for money that we're not going to spend on conservation authority stuff. This money's going to get spent on that property one way, whether it's a handrail, whether there's WECI funding, whether it's for removal of a dam, whether it's for vegetation, whatever. This money's getting spent. So putting this money away for a handrail or some other thing is, I think, probably good finance regardless. And again, ultimately, not up to us. So I all that is to say, in my opinion, let it go. I mean, we could debate at another time whether it's appropriate that we have no say and all kinds of other things like that. But in the context of this budget right now, I would say, let it go. I don't mean to suggest that we have no other opinions on.
And any discussion about conservation authorities is maybe a moot point.
All right. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that Council approve in principle the 2026 operating budget from Report 2025-119 for final adoption at the November 19th Council meeting.
As the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
I think the meeting's probably heard enough from me at this point. It has been a great presentation of the budget. Obviously, a lot of work goes into it long before we get to see it. I especially enjoyed the way that it was sectioned out and those changes to service, like referencing service level, referencing asset management. Every year I feel like I understand it a little bit deeper, and 7 years in that's continuing. I'm very grateful to staff that they continue to revise how they give us information so that we can do our jobs better here. So yeah, happy to endorse in principle.
Councillor Stewart? Anyone else? I'll hold most of my comments until it's a final budget and we see the final numbers in front of us, with the one exception of, the province has so far said that our policing costs will increase by a maximum of 11%. Right? But I think that is still a significant impact in this budget, and if it comes in at something, less than that, then it'll have an impact on the budget, and I genuinely hope that it does. I certainly think that we would be well justified in saying to the province that, if there were significant line items in our budget that came in at even close to 11%, we would be quite alarmed, and I think probably our staff wouldn't even let it get to us, yet it's hanging out in front of us, at this point in the budget, in our budget process, and the province is well aware of what municipal budget processes are, because this time last year they addressed this issue or attempted to. So, with the exception of that, I'm going to wait on all my comments until we see the final budget in front of us for approval at that time. Anyone else before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we are on. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Moved by Stewart, second by Gregg, that council approve in principle the 2026 capital budget from report 2025-119 for final adoption at the November 19th council meeting.
As the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
No, just to echo though, other than to say that the presentation this year is really good and really helpful to get through.
As the seconder? Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now, item 9.4B, report 2025-116 from the Strategic Initiatives Coordinator regarding the Strategic Initiatives Q3 update. Coordinator Sokraj, what would you like to highlight for council before I ask them for questions?
Nothing at this time, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
Jacob, just the last section here talks about rural internet service improvements. Does that pertain specifically to fiber or something else? And I see everything north of Road 88 is complete, everything south is in progress. What does that exactly mean in terms of progress?
Steve might be able to jump in and help me out with the technical aspects of this one.
Yeah, so the north project was through SWIFT, if everybody recalls. So it's the south end, so everything south of 88 is being worked on now by a different company, different supplier, Explore through a different program called ASHIP. It's a little different, but same end result. So their plan is to complete all the southern parts of Zorra Township. They're putting conduit in now. They're hoping to run fiber in next year. How far they're going to get with it, we'll see. Depends on the winter.
I'm going to follow up to Steve on that. I know at one point we were having issues about they wanted to put the fiber in our road allowance.
That's still ongoing.
Huh?
That's still ongoing.
Okay.
It's a day by day. So right now they're in the field process. It's actually gotten easier because common sense comes into play. When you come out,
Really?
we'll meet with them instead of trying to do this on paper and give them a solid running line for every road we have in Zorra. Like obviously that doesn't work, right? So sometimes you just have to meet with them out there and say, you work with them.
So it's a bit of a painful process.
Yeah, it's starting to get better now.
Okay.
So
Do you have sufficient policy direction from council to manage that with them? I'll leave it there.
yeah, just leave it there.
Any other questions on the report? Do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that report 2025-116 from Strategic Initiatives Coordinator be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Correspondence requiring direction, item 10. Are there any questions on either 10A or 10B, and or do I have a mover? questions on it? Everybody seems to be willing to move anything. Is there any questions that would help you come up with a motion? Anyone? Bueller?
That's the
Okay.
one for the,
But do we have any delegation? Karen, if we don't have any. Okay. But do this one separate too? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that 10A be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 10B?
Yep. Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that council extend their appreciation to Rob Parkhill for his time and efforts on ROEDC, and that council directs staff to move forward with recruitment for a new board member, and that this resolution be sent to ROEDC.
Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor?
Just really briefly, I met Rob before I was appointed to the board in relation to his business out in the community. He has brought a vast amount of lived experience and personal knowledge in a wide range of business through both employment and a family-run business that he has. And serving with him on the board has been an absolute pleasure. He has stepped into a leadership role on the board and was the vice chair, and carried us through in chairing meetings for a stretch of time where our chair was away. So while he will be absolutely missed, I just want to thank him for the contributions that he made to help provide the best context for the decisions that our Zorra voice was able to lend to that organization. And I wish him and his family all the best in Nova Scotia. And they're big shoes to fill, but I'm very optimistic. I think anytime we've been sad to see someone go in any role that we've engaged with here in Zorra, we've always had incredible positive surprise and who has stepped in to fill them. So my expectation is that while Rob was fantastic, that someone from our local business community is going to step forward and provide even more.
Anyone else? Yeah, I've known Rob and his family for a number of years, and Rob is a loss to this board, but frankly his family is a loss to the community because they're like just incredibly vibrant and positive people. So I think this says does it say to write a letter and thank them? We will write a letter, right? Yes, and so I want to sign that one, and I want to hand deliver that when we do it. Thank you. Anyone else before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I think now boards and committees, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board update from Board Member Mitchell.
I'll make this quick. Meeting last Tuesday, we reviewed the latest edition of the draft budget. I think we're all budgeted out, and it won't be passed until February. I can give you more information then. We did get an interesting annual report on grants that the Upper Thames has been successful in getting. Grants and contracts from 18 different agencies for a total of $2,568,000. Some of those are over the next 1 to 4 years. And in addition to that, the previous grants for $20 million over 4 years from the Canada Water Agency for the best management practices to reduce phosphorus. The bulk of that money will go out to landowners in incentives to adopt those policies. And there's also a $750,000 over 3 years, also from Canada Water Agency, that is used for the internal research and education programs in that branch of the Upper Thames staffing, which includes the demonstration farm just outside of Thorndale and a new demonstration farm just near Wildwood. The most interesting thing that happened, that what come out of the meeting, was what didn't come out of the meeting, and that was that there was no mention by anybody about the provincial government announcement that came down Friday morning, saying that they were creating the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, and that they are amending the Conservation Authorities Act to reduce the number of conservation authorities from 36. And the one report I've seen is they're reducing it to 7 monster-sized conservation authorities within the province. The rationale that the minister gave was that many municipalities are served by multiple conservation authorities, and each one has their different rules and different service levels, and that is slowing down approvals for development. And I'll point out that Zorra is the only rural municipality in the Upper Thames watershed that is only Upper Thames. All the other ones have 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 or 4 conservation boards. So I received an email on Monday suggesting that there would be Upper Thames amalgamated with 7 other boards to form a giant one, basically going from Kitchener-Waterloo right through to Windsor and Sarnia, that whole part of, and down all of the north part of Lake Erie. It's unclear. There's a couple of things that I can see automatically it's going to happen. And one is staffing, and the minister repeated several times that there would be no jobs lost, but the people in senior management that were no longer needed in senior management would be reassigned. Well, I think what's going to happen is that the last of the baby boomers that have been in conservation for 30 years are going to retire. The ones that are in mid-career these are highly educated people with really in-demand skill levels. Those mid-level people that are redeployed are going to redeploy themselves right out of the conservation movement into private industry, whether it's conservation or something assorted. So there's going to be a tremendous loss of knowledge and experience from the staffing end. The governance end, I'm not sure at this point whether there's even going to be boards of directors going forward, or whether it's all going to be run out of Ottawa or out of Toronto by the ministries. And even if there is boards, the eight conservation authorities that will form one, there's well over 100 board members on those current conservation authorities. So I would envision that Zorra would no longer have a representative on a conservation board. There might be one from Oxford, one from Perth, one from London, and one from Middlesex at the most. Otherwise, you're going to have monster-size boards. So it's the biggest shakeup in 60 or 70 years since conservation authorities were set up. It's supposed to take place by the current structure will stay until the next municipal election. So there's a year for this to all filter through. I know, Marcus, you have some thoughts on funding and where this all does. It just takes that local connection and governance out of it. But who knows what about local funding does. So that's my report, and it appears I will be the last Zorra representative on a conservation authority, is my guess. Not that I want to be the last, but that's the way it's going to turn out, I think.
Any questions? I think, pardon me? I'm not going there. You got to go there twice already.
Marcus, you fouled it off.
12 information items. There aren't 12 informations. Item 12, comma, information items. Any questions on that, or do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that item 11A be received and filed for information purposes only. That was 11A.
What, do we always do a motion for that? but we did this time. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Yeah. Item 12. And we got anything for item 12? Questions, comments, snide remarks? I'll take anything at this point.
Motion? Moved by Finch, seconded by Mitchell, that item 12A be received and filed for information purposes only.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I think then we're at bylaws, items of community interest, and then confirmatory and adjournment. Councilor Mitchell.
Bylaw, moved by Councillor Mitchell, second by Councillor Finch, that bylaw 45-25 be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and further that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix a corporate seal thereto.
Just a comment that it might be best practice if the deputy mayor and deputy clerk sign those today. I'm not sure we're up to it, frankly. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Items of community interest. Councillor Finch.
November 11th, Remembrance Day, is at the Cenotaph in Embro at 11 a.m. with the Legion hosting a chili lunch afterwards. Perils of Persephone, the Thistle Theatre is hosting November 14th to 16th and 20th to 23rd. You can get tickets online.
And there's special guests at some of those, right?
Yes, a few of us will be opening the play.
What night are you doing it?
The 14th.
You? 21st? And I don't know what night I am. I know I have it in the calendar here, but one night I am as well.
The 20th.
20th?
I think that's
20th. Correct. Yes, 20th. Okay. Anyone else?
And the Embro Santa Claus Parade is put on by the Embro Zorra Agricultural Society on December 6th at 6 p.m.
On Sunday, November the 9th, there will be a Remember Day service in Lakeside, 11 a.m. I will attend on behalf of the township. Wednesday, November 12th, 7:30 p.m., Wisdom Wednesday at Brown's Corners. Be a presentation regarding programs available at the St. Mary's Friendship Center. And Friday, November 14th, there's a fundraising lasagna dinner at Brown's United Church. Sittings at 4:30 and 6:30, and $25 a ticket.
Anyone else? I have a note here with a question mark about Allison Lupton on the 8th. Is she playing in Harrington this Saturday?
I don't know.
I just have a note here on it.
I would doubt it. They just had that Diamond Mine concert
Right?
2 weeks ago. So.
Maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know. Okay, ignore that. Anything else on items of community interest? Not seeing anything, then closed, we're done. I think I have confirmatory and adjournment, unless anybody's got, okay. Councillor Mitchell.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, second by Councillor Finch, that bylaw 46-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held November 5th, 2025. You read our first, second, and third time this November 5th, 2025. And further, that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Mitchell.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, second by Councillor Finch, that this session of council now be adjourned and herewith closed at 3:59. I think this sets a record, at least in my time on council. And the next meeting of council be called for November 19th, 2025 at 4 p.m. at the council chambers at the Zorra Municipal Center. That's the special early budget meeting.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, just a Teams message. I didn't know if it was something I had to update council on. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are adjourned.